So Shin and Raver, that's basically the introduction. And what Paula said, then we're going to move on to, we're going to stay actually in the north of Ireland and move on to our next speaker. Throughout the event today by Pádraig Ó Dochartaigh, August Lishan Igjeru, and Amacht Inu by Kirkle Cora. Again, we're going to have a conversation session at the end when our speakers are all done and our performers are done. And that is basically to encapsulate the connections we have made this year with Glór Inis Eoghain and with Conradh Gaeilge, Iarthar, Massachusetts and Shaw. And it's basically my whole mindset around the Irish language that you should speak it Bahachanga Lorch. So is Jesh chun a bheith ag clachtú do chuid Gaeilge, nó a bheith ag éisteach le do chuid Gaeilge má táú ag dhéú just a bheith ag síiste agus a bheith ag éisteach. If you want to practice your Irish, your couple of words, or just sit in and listen, we'll be putting into breakout rooms at the very end of this event. So that's a chance to actually use a bit of your Irish and maybe meet some new people as well. So moving on to our next, our Cantor Ella, our Chéad Cantor Bia and you, our first live speaker today will be Pádraig Ó Dochartaigh August. It's more an honour agam fáilte a chur rah Pádraig aniu tá sé an seo mar ionaíocht de Glór Inis Eoghain. He'll be here as a representative of Glór Inis Eoghain today. Sin coiste a buniu in Inis Eoghain chun an Gaeilge a chur chun cin in Inis Eoghain agus tá an Cathairleach agus tá ball ella agin den coiste Lynn and you. We have our chair and a few other members of the committee here today as well. It's basically a committee set up in 2019 in Inishowen and Donegal to promote the Irish language in Inishowen. August is Paddy is a proud native Inishowen man. August V Shan uncle Sega O Urris Donegal, August V Chonachar War Ega Seal Paddy, August Kinche and Shin Hun a Stadri Yanu and Gaeilge, August Hun Lana Jurai le Leshan Gaeilge a Hivenu, August a Chur Hun Kin. Paddy's great uncle was from Urris, one of the last native speaking Irish speaking places in Inishowen in the peninsula, and he then went on and decided to promote and preserve that heritage and history through through studying Irish and then going on to teach in a secondary school or a high school, as they call it here, where I am currently, the Irish language there, and then actually went on now and is working as a lecturer in Ulster University, Magee in Derry. August Fishe Mar Winter Ogum, he was a lecturer, my own lecturer, August Mar Winter Egg Mwame, August Moyaji, so it's gone full circle all together. So again, tell him well, without a further ado, Pádraig Gurmila Maigov, and Paddy's going to give us a little more insight into Gaeilge in Inishowen, Irish in Inishowen. My who Pádraig Gurmila Maigov.
My who Réaltín Guru Mila Maigov as an intro into August Marshinda is just of a canch Dini awal simaku sa culture sa Nairacht, August Marshinda. Lovely to be talking to people who are interested in the culture, the heritage, and so on. It's great. Austashi. Verenche Octa Credu, Urris Dini, Ekail, America, August simaku sa Gaeilge, Mullingamorshev. So, dus Bidger Gravardu picture bigger harinch to draw a wee picture, to create an image of what Inishowen is like, really. So Dainarav, in the census of 2016, Inishowen had 40,544 people living there. Not very big. You could call it maybe the size of a fairly big town. The name itself is very interesting. And Tanya means similar. Inish can mean island or peninsula. And way back in the Ice Age, Inishowen was a peninsula, but it has evolved into being it was an island, sorry, but it has evolved into being a peninsula. Owen, he was a son of the famous Niall of the Nine Hostages. So Niall farmed out modern day Tyrone and Inishowen, or our peninsula, to Owen. And Connell, another son of his, got what we call Chicopee, the land of Connell. That would be modern day Donegal minus the land of Inishowen. So that's a little. Shin Rodbig den Coolra. It's few Sheelam. Am I speaking a bit too much Irish, or is it okay? Okay, yeah. It's few Dul Fridge, Dul Urris, Hartfa Inishowen, agus a bheith ag swinchu in the Loganium Yaha. To take a trip through Inishowen and to think about its rich place names, for example. Where I live at the minute, and where Stephen there lives, Bun Cranach, Buncrini in anglicized form doesn't mean anything. You'll ain heelish. Healian Shea, the bottom of the tree line river. Bun, bottom, Cranach, there's lots of trees there. That's the word Cranach is used adjectively there. You move on down a wee bit to a place called Drumfries. Doesn't mean anything in anglicization again, but Drum, ridge, free, heather. A few miles from there, you have Ta Ach a Dr. Cluan Manya Air. Helian Cluan and Focal Cluan means meadow. Manya, there's argument about that. Ta Aragon Swishin. Jardini Gor Anyam Dinya Ton, Manix no Mani. Jardini Ella, who Bunchig and Rodlam Mani, monks. I myself think Sheelam Fain, Gor Farn Nifa, no hermit of Vion, a Romanix there, I was Groshian of Honianshin, Cluan Manya, the meadow of Manix. G-Shart Egni, G-Shart, D-A for the S-E-R-T, Kilian Shin, wilderness. Egni is a person's name, E-A-G-N-E. Swinu Arianlum, Ta own Comtosi Sananium Inishowen. We have lots of people called Owen and Inishowen, but nobody that I know has ever touched the name Egni as a first name. I wonder, is that because of the phonetics of the word, the sound of it, or whatever? St. Oran had a connection with Inishowen. Ta and Tanyam Shin, Kutchi into Glór. Tom Tanyam Shin, common Glór in Inishowen. But ni Higgin came from the whole Egnis are beyond. When he was such a prominent hermit. Urris, Ross, the little peninsula in behind. Now, Ballyliffin. Very interesting and controversial, I think. Sometimes called Ballyliffin. Balla means town, Leah means grey, and obviously Finn is the mythological giant Finn McCool. I find that hard to believe that Ballyliffin's called that. It also is referred to as Ballyliffin, the halfpenny town. That seems more likely because there was a fair there, which is now dead and defunct, called the Pollen Fair, and halfpennies and pennies exchanged there. So I would believe that the name comes from the wheeling and dealing at the fair, Ballyliffin, the halfpenny town. Carndonagh. Carn means heap or mound or height. Dona means a church. We have a town called Cairndonagh, an Anglicization, Crndonagh. But when you see the Gaelic words Cairn and Dona, the mound where you've got the church, it makes great sense. Dona can also mean Sunday, but very often means church. Now, I could tell that that's probably enough place names, but maybe worth mentioning where Réaltín and her mommy and daddy are from, Moville, my villa. Sometimes wrongly referred as Bun and Fubble, but that's another day's work. My means plain, Plan, and Billa means a sacred tree. So the plain of the sacred tree, Magh, one word, Bhile in Gaelic. Anglicization, Moville, doesn't mean anything. Now, that's a flavour of the lovely Gaelic names of Inishowen. Fast forward, Glór Inis Eoghain, Gaeilge, Gaeilge, 1607. From Lough Swilly. Inishowen is a peninsula which is in between Lough Swilly and Lough Foyle. Anyone familiar with the geography? But Gaeilge, 1607, from Lough Swilly, there was a big event called the Flight of the Airs. Yearly. That would be the equivalent of taking the present government and putting them on a boat and sending them away off into oblivion. Might be no harm, some people would say, but that's. But Tarish, yearly, after the Flight of the Airs, in 1609, there happened the plantation of Ulster, Harla Plandail. And that landed us with an erosion of some of the very rich and beautiful Gaelic names. And we ended up with what I think are Anyamnyaha Grana Gauda, very inappropriate English names for lovely places. We ended up with such names as Burnfoot. This will mean something to the local people, but I understand the people who are studying and the people who are in America that will appreciate the difference between Burnfoot and some of those lovely Gaelic names. Bridge End, Manor Cunningham, the manor of the landlord Cunningham. Newtown Cunningham. Believe it or not, Heave Réaltín the Inishowen, Sativa will Coney Urhi. We have 3 castles and 3 colours, red, white, and green castle. That didn't take much imagination. But what does that prove? It proves that the planters, or whatever you want to call them, or the thieves who stole the land, couldn't pronounce the names. So Sweeney Sheed Ergahana, they thought of colours. August Sweeney Sheed Ergashlan, they thought of castles. We also have Quigley's Point, the point of land belonging to the landlord Quigley. We have a Victoria Bridge, and I believe in my villa Hain, ta Montgomery Terrace, August Bath Terrace, Willencartocum, Sheila May. Now, the slunche is Cochianta, sa Lehinish, the most common surnames in the peninsula. Doherty, Shinnan Kionis Cochianta Sheila. It means troublemaker. Some people don't live up to the name. You're not in that category, Stephen. McLaughlin, Hanishin on the Lochlani, the Vikings. Their invasion left us with that surname. McDade, McDavid, McGonigal, McCungal, Farran, O'Farran, Grant, O'Grania, McCarran, O'Harkin, O'Harkin, McCallion, McCalleen, Friel ó Friel, Donaghy ó Donaghy, agus ó Kelly, Kelly. So, sinad na slunche is coitianta sa lehenis. Interestingly enough, Simul Glór, or Gaelic games, namely Gaelic football and hurling, have only recently started to flourish in Inishowen. At the minute, I would count, I think, 6 clubs who play Gaelic football and a few clubs who play hurling. Prior to the 1970s, soccer was a big game. The reason being that Inishowen would have had garrisons there. Buncrana was a garrison town, for example, and there were garrison forts at Leanan and Dunree. And of course, Derry City being on the doorstep was a big influence as well. An upper Arin Nadini, the Bliant O'Hain at Jerry Lishanish, the monarchana on in our renew Lynche. Shirt factories was a big thing. Buncrana alone, for example, at a time would have had 5 shirt factories, and that was a very big employer. Ferrimurach Noi Ermaha Avi Beg, small time farming. Subsistence, on love Guji and Bell Marajerha, from hand to mouth, really. Iskarach, the Chonskol more Iskarachta in Inishowen. Ach, Tashi Erin J. Jerryanish, it's on its last legs now. The herring fishing was seriously big right up until about the 1950s. Fruit of the loom. I'm sure our American friends have heard of Fruit of the Loom. I think they are an American company. They gave us a very good 10+ years in Buncrana area here, in the Inishowen area. I think the employment was over 2,000 at one stage in the peninsula, and that was seriously, that had a big, serious effect on the economy for while it lasted. But sadly, the demise happened, or really they up and went off to Morocco, and things ended very abruptly. That was a big blow to the area. Some customs, nosana, view cochianta secanter, a bidger at emiha rudbig and egg inish that have died a wee bit now. We still make St. Bridget's crosses from rushes. And Crochteriad Savoyha le go me na hanyavihas slanchul. They can be hanged up, they can be hanged or hung up in the byre, for example, to keep the cattle safe. There's great belief in the St. Bridget's crosses. The custom of Arnel or Igdoler de Gaeilge visitation. Very often in Inishowen speak, people would say, I'm going on my Gaeilge, Gaeilge Shishin, I'm going out to visit and talk, maybe have a drink with friends in a house, or maybe even sing a song. Holy Wells, Tober Bamiha, Tourist or View Tourist Egg Amana Difrula de Coach the Bliana, Egg Tourist Bami Tober Bamiha. There would be what's called if you want to call it a pilgrimage or a tourist, a walk to a holy well at different times of the year, and great heed would be taken of the curative powers, for example, of Ishke Baniha of holy water from the well. Halloween, I'm sure in the sauna, to shouldn't the special symbol. The notion into simply bunch-slash modular ihe krona, simple customs like eating nuts, tying an apple by a string and trying to take a bite out of it, things like that. But interestingly, a lot of American customs have crept in now, like trick and treat and all this dressing up and all that. Agus ní rudí Gaeilge iad sin. They wouldn't be rooted hereditary Irish customs. We would have had customs of the clamory at Christmas, rhymers, where they would dress up, agus bhíl festus, ortha janta as tea, agus rudí difriúil mar sin. They would be all dressed up with straw hats, baggy clothes, and all that. And they would sing and dance and say rhymes. And sometimes, in later years, Rinushin or some Carhanata. That would have been done for charity. Nos and Vehel, the custom of the Mehel. Mehel means really a group of workers. So, Vishin inta Kochianta, Hart van Cheer, Hart van Lehenish, and Inishowen. That was very common in Inishowen up to recently. You would still get small examples of it, but not so much now. For example, when a person in the locality or in the town land would be thatching a house, for example, a cur tea hach. Huku na korsana elig. The neighbors all would come and they'll a role henig a handinya. Everyone would have their own role to play. And then when another neighbor would be doing the same, you would have the same team. So the Cochermeach done, there was a fair play in relation to work. The team always went and everybody was looked after. And Rud Cairna modulation won, the same with turf. And Rud Cairna modulation Erimurag, agus Tohals na Brati was Mershinda. Now, another custom would have been no sella na Janu and Poching, the making of poaching. Now, moonshine, I think would be the American term, but poaching, very interesting. Toshi inta simul, mar, ni clushin to if we ishke baha, na poaching in Sasson. You don't hear of it in England. Jantere and Alabin Calculor. So vi me canch Urwine le far a rin poaching and a am. I was talking one time to a man who did make poaching. August Vini Shishindu. He explained that to me. Turche. Brahan Janu and poaching an ishke a hagan on Kheran. You need bog water, August Tamoin the Fosta. You need a turf fire to make the real stuff. Janandinianish, the Sorn gas, August Mershinda, they use gas rings and all that, but during the Shandini, the Shandini a ring and poaching Merskart, Jersey Nahul and Blaskart there, the Riantor Mershinde. It hasn't the right flavor when it's made any other way. Interestingly, Simul Fosta and poaching, the Olahan and poaching Kukuchian Tishin and Inishowen, August Gunyarna and Chaspug, the bishop brought in a rule in the Derry diocese, of which Inishowen was part, that if you were to drink poaching, you were automatically excommunicated from the church, and that still stands. So shin go foil on. So I would imagine that 3/4 of the diocese have been excommunicated, and some clergy among them, I would imagine. So the on Gorta in Inishowen, seafood, it's noteworthy that Nero Shunaher raw oak Egan Gorta Inishowen. The famine didn't have too much of an adverse effect. Obviously, again, the island peninsula thing. Sea foraging was a big thing. William would be the expert in this. William and a Haniol Elhinney Shaw, but sloke, sometimes called laver. Sloke is the Gaelic term. Carrigan moss, carrigan, different other seaweeds, shells, shellfish, also seabirds, seagulls' eggs. So the bia gulioron, agus noi kunini, and rabbits, vin the dini bia ershin. Shin mar hannig fridge, Amshire and Gaeilge, no Amshire and Gorta. That's how they came through the famine. So Inishowen was very lucky. Disasters in the peninsula. The Droha Gominnig Asil na Hiskarata. Kailu, there was bad luck too often, unfortunately, in the fishing industry. Kailu Alan Wad Arna Blienta. A good few boats were lost over the years. And also, the ill-fated Laurentic, a sister ship of the Titanic, and another one called the Oceanic, I believe, at the mouth of Lough Swilly, which is at the tip of Inishowen, Hui and Laurentic Shies go toin poil, agus Kailu Tree Head Higgis a Cahardini. When it hit a mine, and 354 souls were lost. So Vishin into more, agus into Trom. Agus Hannig the corption a ligagier. Agus Shinuiad, Curur Clariad. These bodies were all brought ashore, and they were laid out in an hotel in Buncrana called the Lough Swilly Hotel, and in the Guildhall in Derry City. So am inta bronach a bhíonn sin, bhí sé inta bronach ar fad. Níl mé géirí gulthar an lína maidir le hamda. So bhfuil rudí ceart go leor Réaltín tá? Ceart go leor.
Yeah, Lanort, Paddy Lanort, I take yours.
Okay. Tá lán focail fagcha again in Inishowen. We have lots of remnants of Irish left in our speech in Inishowen. A lán irsni. The best thing might be for me to mention some of them and explain them, rather than take it for granted that people will understand them. You've all heard of the banshee, the fairy woman, or the cry of the banshee at night if somebody dies. Brahan, a word used in Inishowen for porridge, all Gaelic words. Amadan means a fool. You all know that, I'm sure. A cloister means a knockward, fumbly person. Let's hope we don't have any cloisters playing for Donegal tomorrow, Stephen, or we lose a big game, eh? Clobber means muck. Yeah, I was clobber from head to toe. Clobber, muck. The word footer, you're only a footer, meaning you're a fumbly person as well, you're awkward, you're not well coordinated. A well could be covered in glár, meaning greeny, mossy stuff, coating or covering. A gulder means a loud roar. He let out a gulder. He let out a big roar. You would never want to be described as a gulpin. A gulpin means, as we say in Inishowen, a thick, ignorant person. That's a gulpin. Many a mother, and maybe your mommy did, Réaltín. Did she ever threaten you with, if you do that again, I'll give you a luder on the lug? No, she never did. You're lucky. Luder means a slap, and your lug is your cheek. Give me a slug out of your bottle. Can I have a gulp out of your bottle? And a big awkward foot would be spag. So maybe an awkward dancer might be asked to watch your big awkward spag there, you trampling my toes, or whatever. Now, just to finish, maybe, it's not doing, Inishowen's very vibrant. I mean, we have Glór Inis Eoghain, we have the Wild Atlantic Way, which is bringing lots of people here. We have cultural tourism, Turas Cultura, Tá Ach Inta Ilan na Dua. There's a wonderful place in the Isle of Dole that tells the story of the famine. Tá Ceol tradition to Chuntosi. Traditional music is very vibrant. Ceol, we have a singer circle that promote the local songs and Ceol. And rud atá William a Yanu le bia Curagas agus rudi mar sin. Tá an Common Lucas Gael ag blahu. The GAA is flourishing, the Gaelic Athletic Association. So, an ceiste tá le cur, the question that must be asked would be, can we do what happened in the Sperrin Mountains in Derry, in County Derry, and Gaeilge and Rud Cairna Yanu? Hannig slua dini le chéile in sin in Carn Tohar no Sleach Néal. Agus crochi siad Gaeltacht. They founded a Gaeltacht. Tá siad in sin inis, tá Gaeilge Lorch, tá Gaeltacht crochia oku. They have created a Gaeltacht. And not only that, they have created a very, very proud community who have their own co-op, post office, school, Rudi mar sin. And not only that, Rud Inta, they achieved great success as a small community. They achieved national success as a small community in language fostering and also on the hurling and football fields. They have really they have become a great exemplar for anybody who would want to try that sort of experiment. It has also happened in Belfast in the Shaw's Road, where an estate of houses has become a Gaeltacht, and that has caused Manskull first year to happen, and also the Bonskull before that. So, ní chunneó I mé níos móisih bhí sin a pleasure, a pleasure to talk to so many interested people, and tá sulas agam go bhfuair sibh blas big an leathanis even Allinson Dr. Inishowen Moishe Gurmila Maiga.
Mae hu Paddy gur míle maigat bhil am buíhas a ghóla Paddy asocht an cant Harv simul sin agus first of all I'd like to thank Paddy for his really interesting talk there and it gave us a little insight into Inishowen and agus severas na Gaeilge and Inishowen the richness of Irish in Inishowen itself, never mind the whole of Ireland. So gur míle maigat Paddy asocht sin. An hédul sios am mó ceisnear bí géine de Paddy a rah Rahmadrai. Does anybody have any questions for Paddy before we move on? If you want to just put up your hand or put it into the chat box, I'll have a little scoot across with my screens here to see if anyone has any. No. My who, Paddy, you didn't leave out any information, no questions at all.
Réaltín.
Yes.
Níl sogan cabhfuil an láb rud.
Oh, right. Technology, Urris. Go right, Stephen. Yeah.
Well, here, what do you call that? To Sulam gur higgat you Paddy there. Hope everybody understood his English, yeah. We often get so Paddy gur míle maithagad. So I'll just what do you call the catch? I agree with everything he said, and what I hope everybody got a good flavour of Inishowen there. Sinead.
Orfa, Stephen, Gurmila Magat, Sundra, thank you. Good English, my hood. Augustin, to Stephen Lennon, you, Tashi Mark Caherla, Glór Inis Eoghain, he's the chair of Inishowen, the committee that we set up at home in Inishowen to promote the Irish language, on which Paddy was representing today. So my hood, Augustin Magat, Stephen. Next up, we're sticking. Oh, today you're going to go we have someone speaking. Yep, Michael.
Yeah, Gura Mila Magat, Pádraig. Just an observation regarding Inishowen. About a number of years ago, my brother is a tour guide in London, England, and I'm a tour guide in St. John's. And we had a day trip to this famine village, and we said we'd give the tour guide a real hard time. We had all kinds of questions ready for him and see what would happen. And we were just bowled over by that whole experience of going to the famine village. I mean, how knowledgeable, how much passion. I forget the name of the gentleman. It was just, and I think they do something at Christmas. Unbelievable. Great experience, Paddy.
Oh my God, Michael. We have another question. I have Dan McElhinney.
Hi, this is Dan McElhinney from Idaho. Just a quick question on surnames. You mentioned quite a few surnames.
Yes.
What about McElhinney, sir?
Yes. McElhinney. You spell your name the same as Réaltín and them, do you? There's a Elhinney.
Yes, we are family, actually. I'm the grandson of Owen and Teresa. My sister's online too, Mary McElhinney.
Yeah, Mac obviously means son of. Gilla, Giolla, means a servant. And Cunny, like Kilcunny, is the name Cunya, Coannerch. So I would say that it is the son of the servant of Cunya. Have you got another explanation, or
no? I think you did pretty well. Yep, you can just the son of yeah.
Thank you.
Viper B. Thank you, my good Dan. Thank you.
Right down.
Kashner B. Gaini Ella Solomokamujirai. Kathleen. On order, you have to just unmute.
Gormagat. Lovely. So my great-grandfather came from Donegal, and he's a McDade. And I haven't researched the family there yet. I just discovered that on Ancestry that he came from Donegal. So, but I'd like to hear anything you have to say about McDade.
Well, Mock obviously again means son. And the name David, the biblical name David, is David, and the Gaelic for my dad is Mac David, son of David.
Oh.
So it's as simple as that.
Okay.
So you're very biblical.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know if they'd want us, but we'll see.
Yeah, very good, interesting. There's lots of McDays in Inishowen.
Ah,
Well,
well.
Dini, I will Antanium and Slunium McDavid are in Inishowen.
Oh.
Well,
especially the northern part of the peninsula.
Well, I will start digging. I'll start digging right away.
Very good.
Okay, Gurmagat Paddy. Shin, Neil Sugam will Lavin or BL and Arja. Can't see any other hands up. Shout now. No. Shin Mod Sheelam.
Yeah.
Dade's football special. Yes.
Yeah. I see Michael, but the name Michael Boyle there. Have you got west of Donegal connections with a surname name like that, Michael?
Sure, mute faster.
It'd be a sort of west of Donegal surname.
There we go.
No, originally, the story was that we fought in the battle of the Boyne with King James II, and on the way back to we came from Donegal. On the way back, one of my ancestors fell in love with somebody in a place called Dermuck, not far from Mahara, and the commanding officer, was getting after him because he deserted, and he said, "Well, living in Dermuck was punishment enough, so living in South Derry was punishment enough." But the Boyles, I think, came from somewhere in Donegal.
Yeah, it might be a Donegal name.
There's lots of them there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is lots of Boyles.
Yeah,
it's amazing that you use the phrase "drummuck." It means the ridge of the pigs.
Yeah.
And there was a big army base in Derry, and the latest troubles called Piggery Ridge, believe it or not. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Gurmaig of Akarja Shin Shilam Shin the Keshta alike Bayorin Bugurai. So Jerry just Gurmila Magat Pádraig Paddy as Shin. I think we've all got a bit more information on Inishowen, which is always a good thing. So Buggy Mujirai August Tamajugal Fanacht in Inishowen, who Mujur tourist harter in Inishowen. We went on a tour around Inishowen there, but we're going to go back and remain in Inishowen for another one.